I rise to pay tribute to my colleague, but most of all, my friend, Senator Lindsey Graham. We were all shocked to learn of his passing this weekend, and I mean it, stunned. It's hard to imagine the Senate without Lindsey. It already seems quieter. We'll miss his humor, his advice, and, of course, his friendship. Lindsey was dedicated to serving the people of South Carolina and the nation, spending nearly his entire adult life in public service, from the military to the South Carolina House to the past 31 years here, both in the House and in the Senate. Having spent 33 years in the Air Force, South Carolina Air Guard, or the Reserves, Senator Graham was a staunch supporter of our men and women in uniform. Since 2010, he served as co-chair of the National Guard Caucus. And with his help, we were able to successfully convince the Department of Defense to change its policy and allow guardsmen and reservists to concurrently receive their federal tuition assistance and their GI Bill benefits in full. Given our close personal friendship and his ardent support of our service members and our national defense, our military, I like to call him Grambo. For me, that was his nickname, Grambo. You know, kind of like Rambo. Well, he was Grambo. And he really was the Senate version of Rambo in all things military. And he was relentless, as we saw. I mean, right up until almost the day he died, he was working and advocating for our military on behalf of American military strength and our role as truly the leader of the free world. As chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, Senator Graham advanced conservative causes that have made our nation stronger and more prosperous. He helped steer through the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill, or the OB3. It's got a lot of names, but the important point is it really made a huge difference for our country, for working families. And he cared about that. He cared about taking on the big challenges, doing big things. And likewise, as budget chair, he was instrumental in helping us fund border security and law enforcement. He was a big part of helping us implement the Trump agenda, and that was so appropriate. Lindsey was really, as they say in sports, he was a triple threat. He was a triple threat. He was a force in our Republican caucus. He could work with the Democrats, and of course, he had a tremendous relationship with President Trump. And they truly cared about each other. They were real friends. They worked together, but they truly were friends. And we'll miss all of that. As former chairman and a senior member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Graham shaped the federal judiciary. And think of how impactful that has been, from the Supreme Court down to the District Court. He played a central role in the confirmations of Supreme Court justices, including Justices Alito, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett, while also helping to oversee a massive conservative shift in federal policy. I think the time that on the Judiciary Committee, he really said what he thought, what he felt in his heart about Justice Kavanaugh was perhaps, if not his finest moment, one of his truly finest moments, where he truly stood up and said what he felt was right on the national stage and made an incredible difference, a lasting and important, incredible difference. And it wasn't rehearsed. It was just Lindsey spontaneously being Lindsey, saying what he was in his heart. That old saying, speak from your gut with your heart. And boy, did he. And it made a huge difference. And that was vintage Lindsey Graham. His leadership on defense, judiciary, and budget issues will be felt for years to come. But for all his accomplishments in the Senate and around the globe, Senator Graham was most proud of his family. He was a loyal and loving brother and uncle who once said of his sister, quote, "Of all the things that have happened in my life, her turning out so well is the highlight of it by far," end quote. And it is only fitting that his sister Darlene will serve in his place We extend her a warm welcome to the Senate, like Senator Graham did with so many of us. And it's almost as if Lindsey and President Trump had one more call after the call that night where they talked. Lindsey had gotten back from Ukraine, and the president called him, or he called the president. They talked on the phone, and it was shortly after that that Lindsey had his heart attack and died. But it's almost like they had one more call where Lindsey was able to call President Trump again, or President Trump was able to call Lindsey, and they talked about, who should replace Lindsey during that period before the election when the people of South Carolina will elect their next senator to replace Lindsey, and they decided on Darlene, and how fitting, how appropriate. And so big thanks to President Trump for recommending to Governor McMaster that he appoint Darlene. We're so pleased to have her here, and it's so fitting and appropriate. My wife, Mikey, and I are praying for Lindsey and for his whole family, and I have to say that my wife, Mikey, was always a big Lindsey fan. And one time, she just tells, we're at dinner or something, she just tells Lindsey how much I liked and respected Lindsey. So I said to her later, I said, why did you do that? She goes, well, because you do. You really like him, you respect him. So I said, yeah, I know I do, but he's my buddy. You're not supposed to tell your buddy that. They're just supposed to know it. But it's true. I think we all did, both sides of the aisle. And so we will miss him incredibly. The country, the state of South Carolina will miss him. Our country will miss Lindsey Graham and his incredible service. May God bless Lindsey and his entire family.